The following video introduces just one of the featured items presented at our Christmas show at Titchfield Festival Theatre on the 22nd of December. It tells the story behind the monologue that will be recited that evening. David Clark, a former Fareham College lecturer, published his life story in a book entitled Converted on LSD Trip on the 11th of February 2001. When he asked the principal of the college, Malcolm Charnley, to write a foreword to his book, he was shocked at the response. Mr. Charnley said he would have nothing to do with a book, either privately or publicly, with a book that overtly related to drug taking. David had taught hundreds of students as a lecturer in colleges of further and higher education during his 22 years as a lecturer, and spent his last 12 years at Fareham College teaching electronics. He was prompted to write his story after he got news of his older brother Michael's imprisonment in the Philippines, where he had been sentenced to 16 years in 1996. David and Michael, his brother, were young criminals in the 60s and were sentenced to prison for malicious wounding and carrying a firearm without a licence in 1967. David, on leaving Dover Borsal in 1968, had a 3-year career of undetected crime until he had a bad experience on LSD. He relates in his book how he was converted to Christianity after he had a bad trip on LSD when Jesus spoke to him on the 16th of January 1970. After wrestling with his conscience for a year, he made confession to 24 crimes and appeared in Aylesbury Magistrate Court to answer for his crimes and gave an account of his criminal past. On sentencing, Colonel L. Tetley, the chairman of the magistrates, said to Clark, "You have pleaded guilty to 3 charges and asked for 21 other offences to be taken into consideration. Accept a record over a short period of time, which is quite the worst we have seen. We have considered what we ought to do and have come to the conclusion that your evident desire to become a martyr is one thing we are not going to gratify. You are conditionally discharged for a period of 3 years, during which time the sincerity of your conversion will be shown." David has now republished his life story in his book entitled Mr. Clark from Fareham, in which he tells the whole story from a child, his early life, time in prison, his various crimes, and his conversion to Christianity. He goes on to tell how he learned to read to educate himself after his conversion, as he was virtually illiterate. He went on to higher education, graduated with a certificate in education awarded by Birmingham University, became a Baptist minister, and lectured in electronics for over 20 years. He tells of his Christian mission work to the jails of the Philippines. His brother Michael sadly died in New Bilibid Prison in the Philippines in 2005. Dr. Philip Fleming, the consultant psychiatrist for Portsmouth Healthcare Trust, wrote a foreword to his book stating, "This is an inspiring story of a life that's been turned from crime to a positive account, and may be a help to others who find themselves directionless and involved in crime and drug misuse." David is due to give a monologue introducing his story at the Christmas event held at Titchfield Festival Theatre on the 22nd of December, starting at 7:30 p.m, and will be announcing the launch of his new book.